Seoul Arrival Drama, Jungkook alone, but Jimin's name won't stop appearing. The airport lights in Seoul suddenly turned into a stage of shock, as one of the most anticipated arrivals of the year unfolded. Jungkook stepping back into his homeland alone. No companion, no group member, no partner standing beside him, just Jungkook, walking with a silence that felt louder than any scream of the crowd. But the real twist? Even as he moved through the flashing cameras and restless noise, one name refused to disappear from the conversation: Jimin. Why is it that, despite his absence, Jimin's presence became louder than ever? For weeks, fans had speculated whether this return would mark the beginning of a new chapter, or simply another piece of drama in the endless cycle of attention surrounding the global superstar. Jungkook's arrival in Seoul was supposed to be a straightforward event, an idol returning home after projects abroad. Yet nothing about it felt ordinary. His solo return immediately sparked questions. Where was Jimin? Why wasn't he there? And more importantly, why was his name haunting every discussion despite being physically absent? The crowd at Incheon Airport knew what they were seeing. Jungkook's confident but solitary walk painted a picture that was both powerful and unsettling. Fans captured every detail: his posture, his silence, his subtle gestures, as if trying to decode an unsaid message. But alongside those images, online platforms exploded with one recurring theme: Jimin's name trending endlessly, as though he were part of the scene despite being nowhere in sight. Could it be that their bond, real or imagined, is now so deeply embedded in public consciousness that one cannot appear without sparking conversations about the other? Observers pointed out something critical. Jungkook's public appearances often carry weight, but this time, his solo stance felt amplified by the absence of Jimin. In moments like this, silence speaks louder than words. And it is precisely that silence that drove fans into a frenzy. Was this distance intentional? Was it a simple matter of conflicting schedules? Or was it a carefully constructed narrative designed to provoke speculation? The questions grow heavier with every passing hour, and the lack of answers only fuels the fire. Social media tells the story best. Within minutes of Jungkook's landing, hashtags about Jimin appeared everywhere. Even though he was not part of the event, comments flooded platforms, asking if Jimin had plans to meet him later, if something had happened between them, or if this separation was just a coincidence. Yet, no official statement came forward, leaving the stage open for endless theories. And theories, in the world of global fandom, are never small. They are explosive, dramatic, and unrelenting. The most striking part of this situation is the duality it creates. On one side, we have Jungkook, powerful, composed, the image of independence. On the other, we have Jimin, unseen, unheard, yet dominating the narrative. This paradox is what makes the drama so intense. It is not simply about who showed up at the airport, but about who did not. It is about the shadows that follow, the names that cannot be erased, the connections that audiences refuse to let go of. Can a single arrival truly stand on its own when the echo of another member's name is louder than the footsteps on the ground? Critics argue that fans themselves are partly responsible for this phenomenon. By constantly tying Jungkook's movements to Jimin's name, they create a cycle where absence becomes presence and silence becomes noise. Yet others believe this is not merely fan-driven, but rather an inevitable result of the history they share. Their careers, their stage moments, their past closeness. All of these elements have built a narrative that refuses to die. So when Jungkook arrives alone, the image feels incomplete to the audience, and Jimin's name rushes in to fill the void. The emotional impact cannot be understated. For many fans, seeing Jungkook in Seoul without Jimin triggered a wave of conflicting feelings: excitement, confusion, even disappointment. Some expressed joy at Jungkook's strong solo image, celebrating his individuality and resilience. Others admitted feeling uneasy, as if something essential was missing. But perhaps the deeper question here is not about satisfaction or disappointment. It is about the psychology of attachment. Why do people feel compelled to insert Jimin's presence into Jungkook's story, even when reality shows otherwise? Theories spread quickly. Some insisted that Jimin was intentionally avoiding the spotlight to let Jungkook shine. Others speculated about hidden disagreements, while another group believed the separation was only temporary, a prelude to a bigger reunion moment. None of these claims carry confirmation, yet each fuels a different layer of drama. In this atmosphere, truth almost becomes irrelevant. Perception is everything. And in perception, Jimin remains central to Jungkook's narrative. Whether he chooses it or not, as hours turn into days, the story shows no sign of fading. Photos and videos of Jungkook's arrival continue to circulate, dissected frame by frame, while Jimin's name refuses to leave the trending lists. The irony is unavoidable. The louder Jungkook stands alone, the louder Jimin's unseen presence becomes. This paradox is not simply entertainment, it is a cultural reflection of how audiences process fame, identity, and connection. Now the critical question remains. Will this moment be remembered as Jungkook's powerful solo statement, or as yet another chapter in the endless drama of association with Jimin? The answer depends not on official clarifications, but on how fans choose to interpret it. And if history has taught us anything, it is that fans rarely let go of a narrative once it begins. Jungkook may have walked alone through Seoul's arrival gates, but in the minds of millions, he was never truly alone. Jimin's name, louder than the cameras, ensured that. And so the drama continues, Seoul as its backdrop, Jungkook as its central figure, and Jimin as the invisible presence no one can stop talking about. The stage is set, the questions remain unanswered, and the world keeps watching, waiting, and speculating. How long can this paradox sustain itself before reality finally reveals the truth? Or will the truth even matter, when perception has already written its own story? What makes this arrival so gripping is not just the scene itself, but the wave of narratives that followed. Each frame of Jungkook's solitary walk through Seoul's airport has been magnified, dissected, and debated. Yet the loudest element is the ghostly presence of Jimin in the background of every conversation. In the absence of official context, fans turn into investigators, creating theories that feel more like court trials than casual speculation. Every tilt of Jungkook's head, every glance at the floor, every second of silence is treated as evidence, interpreted and reinterpreted through the lens of Jimin's name. It is as if the world refuses to let Jungkook exist in a vacuum. The sheer intensity of this reaction highlights something extraordinary about the psychology of fandom. The bond between two figures can grow beyond the individuals themselves, transforming into a cultural narrative that takes on a life of its own. This is what we are seeing here. Jungkook's physical presence in Seoul should have been the highlight, but the real story became the presence of someone who wasn't even there. This inversion of attention is a phenomenon that few industries experience so vividly, and it demonstrates how the emotional power of association can outweigh direct reality. Some commentators argue that this obsession is unfair to Jungkook, who may wish to be recognized on his own terms. Yet, paradoxically, the same cycle that overshadows him also magnifies his visibility. The more Jimin's name is mentioned alongside him, the larger the spotlight becomes. This paradox fuels a debate. Is the constant connection a burden or a hidden advantage? For fans, the answer is unclear, and perhaps irrelevant. What matters is the drama, the tension, and the endless stream of speculation that keeps the narrative alive. Social platforms have turned into battlegrounds. On one side, there are those who celebrate Jungkook's independence, insisting that his solo arrival is a powerful message of individuality. On the other, there are voices who argue that the absence of Jimin suggests tension, distance, or something deliberately hidden from the public eye. Screenshots, edits, and captions flood timelines, each post adding fuel to the fire. The irony is sharp. While Jungkook physically stood alone, the digital space surrounding him was more crowded than ever. Dominated by Jimin's shadow, it is worth asking. Why Jimin and why now? The answer lies in history. Their public interactions, past collaborations, and perceived closeness have created a narrative thread too strong to cut. Audiences are conditioned to expect their names together. So when Jungkook surfaces alone, the contrast becomes glaring. Absence transforms into its own kind of presence, louder than physical reality. It is not about whether something is happening, it is about the inability of the audience to separate one from the other. Observers note that the timing of this drama is crucial. Jungkook's return comes at a moment of heightened global attention, where every move is magnified by international media. In such an environment, even the smallest absence becomes a headline. The fact that Jimin was not seen at Jungkook's side instantly triggered a tidal wave of speculation, simply because silence in a noisy world always feels suspicious. And when suspicion takes hold, it spreads faster than fact. fans themselves are caught in the tension of dual emotions. Some claim relief that Jungkook is building his own path, while others confess to a lingering unease, as if waiting for the missing piece to appear. The emotional roller coaster reflects not only their investment in individual members, but also in the idea of their connection. It is not just about celebrity culture, it is about human psychology, about the tendency to search for patterns and narratives in every detail. In this way, Jimin becomes not just a person, but a symbol of what people want to see in Jungkook's journey. Critics of this frenzy often highlight the dangers of overinterpretation. They argue that fans risk losing sight of reality, replacing facts with imagined scenarios. Yet, the counterpoint is undeniable. This very speculation is what keeps the story alive, what keeps people talking, watching, and caring. Without drama, the cycle would end. And for the global entertainment industry, silence is the only thing more dangerous than scandal. Thus, the endless echo of Jimin's name may be precisely what ensures that Jungkook's return to Seoul becomes more than a fleeting headline as time passes. The story evolves rather than fades. New angles emerge, from blurry fan-captured images to alleged sightings that may or may not be true. Discussions grow, layering new theories on top of old ones, until the narrative becomes a complex web that no one can fully untangle. In this process, Jimin's name continues to resurface, each mention reinforcing his invisible presence. The pattern is self-sustaining. The more people talk, the harder it becomes to stop. This raises a profound question. Can Jungkook ever truly stand alone in the public eye? Or has the bond of narrative tied him permanently to Jimin in the minds of millions? It is a question without a clear answer, one that will linger long after the cameras stop flashing. For now, what remains undeniable is the emotional charge of the moment. Jungkook arrived in Seoul alone, but the story became about two names, one body present, the other present only in memory, speculation, and conversation. And so the Seoul Arrival Drama has transformed into something larger than itself. It is no longer just about a man walking through an airport. It is about perception versus reality, about absence louder than presence, about the power of narrative to shape what people believe and feel. Whether this drama will fade into obscurity or ignite further waves of speculation depends not on facts, but on the collective will of those who consume and spread the story. One thing is certain: Jungkook may have walked alone, but Jimin's name ensures he will never truly be seen that way. The world is watching, listening, and waiting for what comes next. And in this silence, in this absence, lies the most powerful presence of all, the one that refuses to disappear.